Mr-Goody again, and it's cold outside today. It's about 40 degrees, something like that. Well, what we're going to do, we're going to change water regulator valve and a thermostat in a 2005 Nissan Altima, a 2.5 liter engine. It's right here. First thing you want to do is get you some tools, which we have our tools, some tools here, and we'll get them as we need them. Now what I have is a ratchet with a 10mm socket on here with a little tiny extension. First thing you want to do is disconnect the battery, because you do not want to mess with any sensors or anything electrical in your car. I'm just going to set this over here while we work on the car. I have a metal brush also to clean the connectors. You want to take the shield that goes on top of your engine off on this first to get to this. I mean, this is really exciting, I know, but it has to come off. But the real fun hasn't begun yet. When we go to changing the valves, or the water valve and the thermostat, it's going to be really fun. That's when the fun begins. Okay, now what I do is I put these bolts in a certain spot so that I don't lose them. A good practice is if you have a cup, but I'm not going to need a cup because I remember where they go. Have a pretty good memory sometimes. I'm a sometimer. Okay, so you are getting this instead of just me, right? Mm-hmm. Okay. Now, 1, 2, 3, 4 bolts holding this engine shield on, the plastic shield here, and then that comes right off. And then I'm going to set that right here safely on the ground where nobody's walking or anything, because you don't want to damage it. You don't want to walk on it and bust it, and you will be in trouble. Okay. Now, if you can see right here behind this hose comes from the radiator and it goes right to here. Now, behind this is going to be what they call the water regulator valve. Okay, so we're going to get to that, and then the thermostat is going to be behind this other hose down here, which we're going to have to take off the shield to the exhaust manifold, which, by the way, is also 10mm. So make sure you get you that 10mm ratchet and socket out. It's going to help a lot on this job. I've also noticed on this shield that 2 of the bolts are missing, so it can create a little kind of knocking sound, like when you're going down the road. These 2 bottom bolts are missing on this, and I'll probably have to order those 2 bolts. They don't have them at the local hardware store, because it can, if you look right here, it can hit up against the cats. This is a Cadillac converter, and then this is where the exhaust comes out, and it can hit up against this and make a little kind of sound from the shield hitting that. Okay, now what we have to do next, I think it's going to be an 8mm. I'm going to put my sockets right there where the battery goes so it'll hold it still. I don't have a small ratchet for it. Do not have a small ratchet for an 8mm, but let me see if that's what it is an 8mm. Yes, it is. But as long as I have a, see, you probably have to go get a screwdriver and an 8mm socket. So I'll be right back. Okay, so we're going to continue taking off the things you need to get access. There's this little clip right here to this air intake sensor. You just push it in and pull it out. Never try to force it too hard. There's going to be a clip right here, which you're going to need a set of pliers. And you just pull that back. And then just like that. And then what I have is a flathead screwdriver. And to this clamp right here, it loosens up. So we're going to loosen that bolt up. We're going to take, basically we're going to take all the breather equipment off of here. There's these two little latches right here, if you can see. Push this back, and push this one back. So since this is loosened up, we have it taken off the sensor here, and then those are now disconnected. You can lift this up, and as you lift it up, you're going to pull, not too hard, but just about 5 pounds worth of force, and then you can see that this whole thing comes off. Again, I'm going to set it down on the ground, and what this does, this gives me access to right here, where we're going to change the water. This gives me access to where we're going to change the water regulator valve. Okay, now I'm going to go ahead and unplug this wire here. It has a tab where you can push it down where it comes out safely. Push it down toward the back, and then that just comes up and you lay it to the side. Now this hose goes to the radiator. What you want to do, you know it's going to leak out coolant. So what I'm going to do, I mean there's probably 100 different ways you can do this where it's not going to leak. But I'm just a shade tree mechanic, so what I'm going to do when I take this off, I'm going to make the hose stay higher, because gravity tells you that water or anything is going to, you know, go downhill. I'm just going to make the hose higher than what the water is in the radiator, so it won't come out just like that. And I'm going to lay that up under there like that, and it's not going to leak any coolant out of there. And I'm going to have to do it with this hose right here and this hose right here. So get the pliers to this clamp, then I push it in. Sometimes they can be a little aggravating, but you got to have patience. If not, you'll end up losing your temper and probably beating these cars up. Now you see that there's a little bit of coolant that's going to come out of here. I really can't stop that. So that's going to come out, and in a perfect world I would stop that up. Now you take the clamp back a little bit on this hose here, and you disconnect it. You just kind of scoot it back. And hopefully you have to look for dry rot too. This isn't dry rotted, so we're going to be fine. I'm going to lay that hose kind of back up in here. Go ahead and turn it off or something. Okay, we're going to need probably 10.
Yeah, 12.
I don't know how to 12 out here. That's kind of embarrassing. I wish I had something to cover that over, because they'll eat me up on YouTube saying, you could have cut that off. Okay, go ahead and resume. Or did you already?
I didn't even stop.
Okay. What we do here, this is a 12 millimeter. And always remember, lefty loosey, righty tighty. So, these bolts are going to the left. And they're not too hard to get to. If I can remember right, I should be able to access these with just the small things that I've already took off already. And you want to be careful not to strip out any of these nuts. I'm going to put these right here where I know where they are. Okay, I do remember a kind of little there should be, if you can get this on the camera, this metal bar right here is going to be in your way. Now here's what a lot of the videos don't tell you about this metal bar that goes into the engine block. You can't move it, you can't bend it. It's pretty good metal. But what you can do is this, and I remember by working on some of these cars, this is the trick. You disconnect the rubber hoses. There should be just 2 of them. There's this little hose right here. That one's a little harder than the others to come off. And you can see coolant is going to come off, or come out of there. And I'm going to have to put coolant back into the car. Now I'm going to put this hose over there. And then this right here is another clamp that I'm going to clamp onto. Another way you could have done this is just drain your coolant out of your car before you do this. But I am going to spray off the driveway to get any coolant off the driveway, because antifreeze can kill animals. As everybody would say, it tastes sweet, and animals like to drink it, and it could kill them, or it will kill them if they drink it. Okay, what you want to do, there's one bolt on this metal pipe that you take off. It's also 12 millimeter. I learned this on Nissan forums with blueprints, pictures, and you know, just the people that work for them talking about this. And it kind of helped out a whole lot. What happens now is that this whole metal piece has one more bolt I see underneath here. It's underneath the front. Almost forgot, but it's there. That was on there good. And you have to loosen it up and get it to come out. What I'm going to do is take this metal bar off of there so that I can get to the thermostat down here good, and that I can get to the water control valve there. Because if not, it's really hard to get to. This is a lot easier. Okay, putting that bolt there. And then once those two bolts are out, okay, what I'm going to do is just pause for a second and we'll get something to put. I guess I'm finding out, folks, that the best way to have done this is to maybe drain the coolant out of the car first, because I'm going to get a lot of coolant kind of everywhere in just a few minutes when this comes off of here. Okay, there's 1, 2, 3, and then there should be a 4th bolt underneath here, this part. And what I need to do
You do realize that rubber hose is still hooked up in there, right?
Yeah. Okay, it's going to be a little bit of a learning process here. Let's see if this comes off this rubber hose easily so that I can have full control to this metal piece here.
I was thinking you just slid it down all the way. Let me see if I remember. That slides it out of the way enough. No. Extension?
Yeah, go ahead and pause it and we'll get an extension. Okay, I'm taking off the 4th bolt and final bolt that's underneath the metal pipe. I loosened up the metal pipe enough to where I have an extension and a ratchet to get to that 4th bolt. That 4th bolt down there is the pain and the hardest bolt to get to. But if you keep at it and you have patience, you'll get it off. Right now I'm just taking, finger untightening the last bolt, and once this comes off, a lot of coolant is going to come out if it hasn't been drained, which we have not drained it. So you're probably going to see a lot of coolant come out of here. All right, I'm going to put this bolt here where the battery goes, and then this should just come on out. You got to make sure this metal pipe's not in the way, and then this comes out like so. And you're going to want to make sure that the when this comes off, I'm going to set that there, and here's the regulator, the water regulator, and that's when the coolant is going to come out of the engine, leak to the ground. Now some of these, see, this looks like it's in really good shape, but you never know. I mean, you can buy brand new ones and they look okay, and then they, you know, they're not good. So, I mean, you can actually test them, but you can't tell just by looking at them. Okay. This is an update here on this. Okay, next time I do this, I'm definitely going to drain the fluids first. So going back to it is drain out all your coolant. If not, it's just going to be a mess. I realize that now, and you'll probably tell me that in the comments. But the bar I was telling you about, the metal bar, once you release it, you kind of just wiggle and pull forward, and that, see, this bar does come off. And once that bar comes off, you'll see when I'm putting this back on that it's not in the way of this. You want to take off the old gasket, and you want to make this flush and clean, because look at that old gasket, it's kind of worn out a little bit. And when you get one of these parts, like from AutoZone, or if you order it online, wherever you get it, you see that you get a new gasket. You definitely want to change out the gaskets too, because this gasket is no good anymore. You don't want any leakage around the water control valve. Now what I'm going to go ahead and do is also I'm going to take off the thermostat, and since I did not drain the coolant, you're going to see a lot more coolant come out. But it's this hose that's right here in the front. You kind of have to have a,
I can't see what
if you can see right there, you kind of get the pliers and you push that back on that hose there, and I usually push up and down and forward and back, and it'll come through. Now if you can get it to since there's coolant in here, you just kind of put it up as high as you can, like I've done here, and less coolant will come out. Again, like I said, in the future, if you guys are doing this, drain the coolant first, and then you won't have these problems that I'm having. And another way to get to it, again, you're working with 12mm bolts. There's 2 of them, and it's going to be right behind this part right here, if you can see that. There's one bolt, the other bolt, it's already loosened up, so rather than put the ratchet under there, I'm just taking it off by finger, because I mean, a lot faster, and like I said, it's just loose, very loose, so it's no problem in doing this, and it's a little faster. And that comes right off just like that, and I'm going to clean that before I put that back on. And as you can see, this is the actual thermostat right here. That's what it looks like. Once I pull this out, there should be a lot of coolant come out, well, a little bit, and that's the thermostat right there. Okay, putting the old one right here, and then I'm going to have to do a little bit of cleaning, so that's going to take a little bit of while, and I will get back to you as soon as I clean this board cut out.
But you got it upside down.
Yeah, I've got it upside down. Silly me. This comes off, this little adhesive here. And
No, I'm wrong.
yeah, you're wrong. I knew it had to go one way because the adhesive would have to stick. It goes in.
Got a piece going over that little hole. Was wrong. I thought it was wrong.
Yeah, nothing actually flows to that little hole. So this adhesive is going to stick kind of to the surface here before you put on the gasket, so you can kind of line it up and let it stick on there. Now don't get these confused, guys, because as you can see, this has a longer protruding rod that comes out. then, and that's the thermostat. It has the longer rod that comes out with the water flow regulator, which is smaller there. So do not get them confused. It won't go on right, of course, you know. But anyways, you take it to where the spring is pointing inward like this, and you make sure it's flush too. And this is after you've cleaned. And let me do a little more cleaning, which we don't have to pause because I'm just going to do a fast clean on this. On this piece right here. I've got an old t-shirt here that I'm using to clean this off a little bit. What I'm mostly worried about is right here, because you want it to be flush with no chance of leaks from the fluid. Antifreeze, which you can see in here that this isn't corroded or anything. If you find a car that's just using like regular water, spigot water or whatever, that will be rusty in there. Antifreeze keeps it from rusting, and it keeps it from destroying your water pump. So never run it on just water. It really does make a big difference. And also, if you're using just water in the winter time, it will freeze and it will destroy your engine block. Now you line these holes up just like that, and then I have these bolts and these nuts here that go over this. These are 12mm, remember that. And I'm getting them started with my fingers here. I don't know if you can see that or not. Just a finger start. And then let me find the other bolts. Got to make sure that what I did with them, which they're right in here. Here it is for the second one. Now 2 of these should just be little nuts that go over the bolts. Make sure you have all the wiring out of the way. And then there should be 2 bolts that go. There's going to be one that goes here. And then the other one, see, since this metal pipe is off of here now, I can get to this a lot easier. You can kind of see it at this angle, and it just goes up underneath there. And I'm going to get it finger started here, kind of tighten it in there. Then I'm going to put it on the extension. And then you want to switch it to the other direction. And don't tighten this down too tight yet. Just get it flush, because you want to get them all lined up. Then that's when you kind of tighten it, just like you're putting on a tire. So don't get it too tight yet. Just kind of flush. Then over here I'm going to the bolt. Tightening that down.
Okay, that's flush now. Then if the camera can see this, it's kind of hard to see from that angle, but in between these two right here, if you can see that this is going on a bolt right there, that's a very important bolt. That's why I removed this right here. You can see how this popped off. That's the hardest bolt to get to out of this whole job here. Then as it starts to get flush, a lot of people have torque wrenches. I think it's like 35 pounds torque. You don't want it to be too much. Okay. Then I'm going to go back to this bolt. Then I'm going to go to this bolt, or this is just the nut right here that I'm tightening down. Remember, don't tighten this as hard as you can. Just where it's really good and snug. Okay, snug. And then you can start by reattaching the hoses here to this. Okay, now this is just going to go right back over here. Then that's reattached. This plug in goes right there until you hear it click. And let's see what else we have here. This little metal pipe here. You kind of push it back in. It has a rubber gasket right here. You see this rubber gasket? You kind of wiggle it until it pushes back in there all the way. For a second. Now this clamp, you want it to go up this way, so it goes over the metal here. There, it's over the metal. You're going to want this clamp to go over the metal. Then you clamp that down, and then that leaves this that needs to be clamped off. Now see, I'm not like going to pause the camera and show you that that's just as easy as can be, but then again, I don't have professional tools. I'm just using a pair of pliers. Now remember, this hose, before I put that one on, I'm going to put the two bolts that go into this pipe here to put it back on to these two. So one of them goes here. Again, it's still 12 millimeter. I'm not going to need as big of an extension. I'm going to use a smaller extension here. I'm going to put the 12 millimeter on. And right here, because I've already got the pipe pushed in, I'm tightening this down. And again, about 20 pounds worth of pressure. You don't have to kill it. You're going to have to see from this side where I'm putting this screw back in, because it really is hard to see. Bye, bye guys. Have a good work night. All right, what you do, it's underneath here, this pipe right here, and I'm just getting it like hand started here, and I'm going to get it to go back as far as I can with just my hand. Then I'm going to take this ratchet, 12 millimeter again, and tighten this up. Again, about 20 pounds worth of force here. Don't try to kill it. And then we're going to take the top radiator hose. Now you gotta hook it right here. Now I'm working with a minimal set of tools, so you either have a 8 millimeter ratchet to tighten this back up, or you have a flathead screwdriver. In my case, I have a flathead screwdriver to tighten the hose that comes from the radiator to the water control valve. You tighten this back up so it's on there pretty tight, so you're satisfied with it. It's on there good and tight. And if you look over here now, you'll see that this, I mean from this side, you'll have to come to this angle. Huh? You'll see that this right here is, okay, if you see that this right here is back together now, that water control valve is underneath there. So what we have left is the thermostat. It's not going to be too bad at all. So before I put the thermostat on, the new thermostat, I'm going to clean the outer portion right here, and as you can see, there's no rust in there. So that's a sign that coolant has been put in here instead of water, which is that's a good thing. Because you want the water pumps to last. They're kind of a little harder and more time consuming to change, which you guys probably know that. I don't want to change a water pump in the cold winter time. Well, it's technically the fall, but it's cold out here. So, just going to change camera perspectives. What you do, you make sure the button side is out this way. And I've already cleaned right there. You want to make sure it's flush. Flush means smooth all the way around there. On there. Exactly the way it's supposed to be. Now, you take the two bolts that came off of this, and you get them like hand started into there. Then there's another bolt which goes underneath. There's two all together, and these are also 12 millimeter. And what I'm doing is getting it started underneath here. It can be a little more aggravating, but just have the patience until it gets started. There we go. I think it's getting started now. Yeah, I feel it's getting started. I'm sorry, I'm going all over the place. We have a pet cat and it's jumping all over the carts. It's actually jumped on my back. It was doing parkour off my back. Okay, what you want to do now, you take this ratchet. You want to go ahead and tighten these 12mm bolts down. And you get them kind of flush, and then you start to tighten both of them. Again, about 20 pounds worth of pressure is good. You don't want to like get it into some sort of Hulk Hogan headlock or anything. There we go, that one's tight. That one's tight. And then there's going to be the hose that I have from under here. And what you do, I'm trying to get my hand in here just right. You kind of put it, work it, wheedle it back up to where it was. And you get this clamp here. You can set your pliers out. Okay. Take it back up through here. Kind of work with it a little bit. Almost got this back on. It's just there's not a whole lot of room under here. So you can see it can be frustrating sometimes. It's almost back on. You can see it. There, it's right over where it should be. It's back on now. So, if you can see that is just half the battle, because now we're going to have to redo the coolant. We're going to have to put the breather, everything back on. I'm going to have to make sure that nothing is leaking. The battery back in. We're going to have to burp the system after we get the coolant in. So we're going to be doing that in just a few seconds. We're putting the exhaust shield back on now. I've switched over to 10mm on the socket. And remember, ladies and gents, next time, you know, when you do this, don't forget to drain your coolant first. I learned that this time around. We're going to put the breather back on, push it up here. Takes just about 5 pounds of pressure. You don't want to do it too hard. You hook the breather hose right back up there. Make sure it all fits nice and neat. You plug in the sensor right here. Do you hear kind of like it snap in place? And it tilts back just a little bit to go into place. And then it will have these metal tabs that hold it down over the filter. Okay. Then don't forget that you have to tighten it back up to right here. You have to tighten the, what's it called, the band. It's right here. You tighten it back down. Flathead screwdriver. Then over here, you have to take the pliers, clamp this back down, make sure it's on there good and tight. This is good and tight, this is tight, this is good. I cleaned out where the battery goes a little bit. I cleaned it with a wire brush too. Okay, this is positive side first. I'm gonna put this back down on here. This is where the battery goes. It's positive. This is negative terminal. I'm gonna tighten those up in just a second. Before it gets too dark, I'm going to put the shield back over the engine, which also takes the 10mm bolts. Takes 4 10mm bolts. I'm gonna have to get it just right so that they'll start going in. Okay, that one's good and tight. This one's good and tight. This one starting to tighten. Good and tight. We have one more that goes down in here. Good and tight. Okay, that one's tight. And I have a little wrench that's going to tighten these terminals back on here. Let's see, is this a 10? If it's a 10, I can just go ahead and maybe use the ratchet or with the socket here without an extension. Want to make sure it has good connection there. Cleaned it with a wire brush because it was getting kind of grimy. Okay, that one's on there a little tighter. That's good to go right there. That's good to go. So we're just going to top off the coolant. Some more.
And then we're going to start the car and let it run. And then we're going to burp the system, which that will be in another video. But that's pretty much how you change out the thermostat and the the water regulator. I'm pretty sure that's what they call it. Water regulator and the thermostat. So hopefully that gives you an understanding about the Nissan 2005 Altima 2.5 liter engine. This is what it looks like when you get it back together. Until next time.